Debbie upper making. After your after making your pattern, you draw on the leather and you cut out with a little bit of allowance. Usually the silver pen mark, leaving the silver pen mark on the leather is usually enough. When you are done cutting everything, you are going to skive. For this case, we added folding allowance to the top line of the quarter. We are going to skive that part. The allowance was a 5 millimeter, so we skive that part. This part of the vamp is the underlay for the quarter. It's usually about 1 centimeter or 1.2 thereabout, depending on whatever you want to have there, right? You are going to skive on both sides. There's no need to skive the tongue really, except if you want to, fine. But really, there's no need to skive the tongue. This part is usually tricky to skive, especially if you are using machine. You will not have problem if you are skiving with a skiving knife. After skiving with the machine, we still sometimes uh, we still do a little bit of shaving off so that we have like a slopy or a smooth blend instead of having just a sharp deep cut right there. And this utility knife is just enough for this purpose, most especially if it's sharp enough. This is what the assembly looks like. After skiving, then we now retrace the pattern showing every mark, uh, most especially here the highlight and the part where we are going to fold, the part where we are going to fold. And remember, there's a part that has the dovetail on this pattern, which is the lateral side of it. The dovetail points to the media side, right? So this is basically just drawing the entire thing. If there's any design on the upper, such as broke, this is also when to draw it, not the first time we were drawing. So, and this is what it is. The next thing to do is to I just enjoy completing the dart line, the broken lines with the main pattern, which is the pattern without the 5 millimeter allowance by itself. I prefer folding with a continuous line because it's usually very easy. Now it is very important for you to make some little cuts around the neck or the top line, so to speak, just about where the curve start rising. More so, you can make some bigger cuts along the straight parts of the what's it called, of the top line. Then to fold, all you just have to do is to turn over. Of course, you must have added your cement or your gum. Then you turn over and you start gumming the allowance in such a way that you will be seeing the silver pen. So what I'm doing here is using the back of the utility knife to gently draw. Please don't use the sharp side. You can absolutely use any other thing that you have at your disposal. This is just what I find easy because that is what I also used to cut and do a lot of things. So all you have to do is to just draw until you see the silver pen of the, or I mean the mark that you have there. Now this part is usually tricky and more difficult to do, most especially if you don't know how to do it before. It's just exactly the same process. Just make sure you are drawing and you see the silver pen finish. You have some squeezes there. Uh, you have some squeezes there, but it's really not a big deal. There are usually two parts. That's the top and the part I'm approaching right now. So if you follow the same way, at for this one, it's a little bit different from what I did just before now. I went straight to the deepest part of the curve and I brought that down, or I gummed that, making sure I am looking at the silver pen line, and I just attempt to bring all the popping parts inward. It's really quite simple, and we get straight to the straight part again and the end of the quarter. So this is just me trying to make sure everything is flat and well. The next thing to do uh, is to hammer. But before that, you can see, because this is, of course, it's folded and it has a ducktail to it. I did not fold the part where we are going to stitch it together. The top of the back stitching allowance, I did not fold it. The reason is just because I want to reduce bulkiness at the back. Then you use your hammer on the entire top line gently. Usually the part you folded, the part that was facing you while you were folding, is a good place to start. Then you turn over to the next to the main part. It's a little bit messy here. The silver pen that we use has a lot of liquid to it, so it stained the entire quarter. Thereafter, you are going to cut out um, the excesses, the parts that are not needed on the pattern. We are going to gently cut them out. And this process is going to be the same thing for the other part of for the other quarter, which is now this is the media side, right? So it's going to be exactly the same thing for the lateral side. Cutting the back of the quarter, it is very important that you cut off the part that we did not fold over, so that we don't have anything bulky there. Thereafter, you are going to cut away or level up or level down uh, this curved part, this material that gathered there. You are going to cut it down. It's really simple, as simple as you are seeing it. But just be careful not to ruin the top line. Make sure you are not cutting the top line. So this is that was the media side. This is the lateral part. Exactly the same thing is going to be repeated here, just that this time there's a ducktail to it. After marking the lateral side, we are going to do that same cutting that we have there. uh Make sure you don't cut up to the silver pen, so that you don't see the cut part along the what's it called, along the top line. And notice where the cut ended on this part. The we are going to be folding now, but it's absolutely the same, just like the previous one, just that we are not going to be folding the part of uh, the dovetail itself is not going to be folded at this point. So leaving the dovetail behind unfolded, we are going to hammer yet again, just like we did for the previous part, for the media part. The hammering continues on the face of the material itself, and then just like the other part, trimming is going to happen here. Now pay close attention to the way we are trimming this part because of the dovetail. We are going to trim the dovetail into the back stitch allowance. We are going to cut beyond, uh, we are just going to cut up to where the back stitch allowance started from. Then this is what it looks like, exactly the way it was on the pattern. Now we align the back stitch allowance, the back allowance, or the stitching allowance just behind. We align it, and we are going to mark on the flesh side. Now we are going to mark uh, the stitching allowance again. We already marked it out on the grain side. Now we are doing that on the flesh side. Look at the way I marked out uh, where the stitching will end, although it's not showing so much here because it's a biro mark, but it's very much visible to the sewer. So much attention is also needed here to sew it, because you want to be mindful so that you don't sew and get to the dovetail. So you keep sewing until you get to the very, to just where the dovetail begins, then you backstitch at that point. Now you know the routine. You open the back, you apply gum, you bend over, and you add reinforcement. So you place the dovetail where it should be on the media side based on the mark that was left there. Then this is how to sew the dovetail. You simply just start sewing from the top, and that will be for the left leg, from the top of the dovetail itself. And you sew it until you cross the back center just a little bit. Then you sew along just beside the back of the center, just like you're seeing here. Then when you get to the end, you are going to cross over, and just exactly as it is seen here. There's really no big deal. Now, a good reason why we are sewing this is because there's a tape behind that we fix after stitching the back together. After stitching the back together, opening it and coming to either side, we added a cloth like material as a form of reinforcement. So this stitching or the thread now is going to be stitching uh, the leather and the reinforcement material like this. That is why we also stitch along this part. So here you are going to cross over, or you are going to sew just underneath the ducktail, just underneath the ducktail, just as the seen in the video. Then when you are done with this stitch, that is the time to trim your thread. Then you apply gum to fold the top of the ducktail, to fold it in so as to complete uh, the folding of the top line. So after concluding the quarter part of the of our derby shoe, we are going to proceed to draw the lining. Now, this is the lining for the quarter. It's supposed to be three pieces, but here we are combining them together to form just one long piece. So what we did when we were doing the lining pattern interpretation, that we have the short and the quarter part, it has been condensed into one, just like this. All you have to do is to place the short down, put the quarter part on one arm and draw, then you put on the other arm and draw. Make sure you mark all the allowances and make sure your paper is not shaking. Your hand should also not shake. So this is exactly what I was talking about. You are going to flip that over, position it just the way it should be. If you were to draw them individually, right? So that is that about this. The next thing is to cut out, to skive the allowance for for uh where we should join with the part that should join with the quarter, I mean to the vamp. You really don't need extra material here, so you cut according to what you drew. Now look at this part. You see that corner there, you are going to cut, because it is very crucial for the fitting of this lining in the assembly. It is very important. See how short or how little our top line allowance is. We just have about 5 millimeters right there. It really should not be more than that. The more materials you add, the more complicated you want the whole thing to be, right? So that is why it is advisable that you keep it very small and little. So this part is very important to cut. Make sure you cut it so that you have that V shape right there. The same thing for the other part. Then you go and scarf this part. So this is the lining for the back. You join and you stitch to the quarter. After stitching to the quarter is uh, relatively simple. If you have drawn the lining pattern well enough, you will have no problem fixing it. It's just the same thing as what you have on the pattern. You will not have any problem fixing. And if you scarf well, the folding will not give you any problem also. Folding will not give any problem. So after sewing, you are going to proceed to cutting off the allowance at the top line. Here I'm using a cutter, but usually what we use is scissors. A pair of scissors does the job well enough. All you have to make sure is you don't rip off any thread. You really don't want to rip off any thread because it's going to disrupt the integrity of the top line. You don't want to rip off any thread. This is what the quarter looks like after attaching the lining to it. It's really a beautiful. The vamp and its lining is relatively simpler. All you have to do is to sew the vamp, connect the two, the vamp and the quarter together, and your shoe is ready for lasting. Thank you for seeing this. I'll see you on the